one of the largest and most visited pornography websites on the internet, has blocked access to its site in the state of Utah, a move taken to protest the state's Senate Bill 287. This law requires internet pornography peddlers to verify that only adults are accessing their sites. Could this legislation in Utah, as well as a national push requiring certain online services to restrict access to minors on their platforms, reshape the online access for children, as well as usher in a new age verification internet for all? Joining me now to discuss it is Michael Toscano, Executive Director of the Institute for Family Studies. Michael, welcome to Washington Watch.
Delighted to be with you, Joseph.
Good to see you. Tell us a bit more about Utah's Senate Bill 287.
Utah has put itself forward as a leader for governing the internet on behalf of the American family. Under the leadership of Governor Spencer Cox, he has decided that he was going to challenge the powers of big tech in Silicon Valley and big porn with a raft of legislation that would require these companies to verify the age of its users before admitting access. And it's sending shockwaves across the country. Legislatures across the country are looking at it, as well as on the federal level. It's a remarkable watershed in the history of this country.
Was this difficult to get through the legislature there in Utah?
How did it get through the legislature? I would say bravery. As brave men and women who were uncowed by the lobbyists that were whispering in their ear, telling them that this would be an invasion of privacy or that this would be too burdensome for their companies. And legislation, good policy is a matter of balancing interests. And the legislators in Utah decided that they were going to balance their laws in favor of American families. And I think that was the right choice.
If these pornography websites were telling legislators in Utah that this legislation would make it too burdensome for them to distribute their product, isn't that in fact the goal of this legislation? So are they signaling this is exactly how to frustrate us and make us stop?
Yeah, and there are several other admissions there as well, including the fact that they're acknowledging that a very large share of their traffic comes from underage users. Yeah. They're worried. Pornhub is worried, as one of its senior officials admitted online just yesterday. It's worried that its traffic could decrease in Utah by 50%. And part of that concern is, from their perspective, that its age verification is enough of a block for people to decide not to go on a porn site. But it also is an admission that many of the people that are going on their site are underage to begin with. This is obviously a bad thing. And it's only a sign of the effectiveness of this legislation that Pornhub has decided that it was going to play hardball by withdrawing its platform altogether from Utah.
So to that point, Pornhub responds to this legislation by saying, we are not going to allow access to our site from this state. What is the fallout of that decision, do you think?
Hopefully the fallout is that Pornhub will not be allowed to offer its content in Utah. And I have a feeling from what I know of the legislators in Utah that they're not too disturbed by this development. Obviously, they are acknowledging the free speech component of this issue from a constitutional perspective. Their law does nothing to stop a user over the age of 18 from gaining access. It's Pornhub's decision to bar it from everyone. So in that sense, legally, Utah is totally in the clear. They made a decision to require that underage users be restricted. And so Pornhub, I'm sure they're just fine with Pornhub's nuclear option.
Well, unfortunately, Pornhub is just a very small piece of the pornography industry online, and it's not that pornography will not be available. Is there any reason to think that that decision might spread?
Well, the indicators are fairly good that it very well could, because Pornhub's reasoning was that it was going to be too costly and that it was going to decrease their traffic too much for it to be worth them to invest in having their material online in Utah. If it becomes cost prohibitive for porn sites to offer these materials online in Utah, then we can expect that, or we can anticipate that some might make the same decision. But if not, at the very least, we know that this legislation will do its very best to keep minors off of those sites. So it's a win-win situation either way.
Michael, in about 30 seconds, this is a battle with many fronts. Are there other things that policymakers should be doing to stop the distribution of online pornography, especially to children?
Well, I would think that what they should do is they should actually enforce the existing obscenity law. The existing obscenity law does not permit websites or any other producers of media to provide underage Americans with obscene content. The problem is a lack of enforcement. And I think what you see from Pornhub is they don't believe that that will be a problem any longer in Utah, that Utah is very serious. And so they're withdrawing. And I encourage other states to do the same thing and to show that they are serious about this obscenity problem.
Michael Toscano, we appreciate your time and the update.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.